Homelander is no longer chasing godhood. He thinks he has already reached it. And that is exactly why The Boys Season 4, Episode 7 could become one of the most dangerous episodes the show has ever done. Because now, the question is not whether Homelander can be stopped, it is whether anyone still has a move left before he turns the entire world into his own personal church with laser eyes. Hey, what's up everyone? Come back to Breakdown Epic. Just to let you know, this video will contain spoilers. Now, Episode 6 felt like the season finally woke up in a big way. It had momentum, it had payoff, it had that chaotic early boys energy that a lot of people have been missing. And most importantly, it gave Homelander exactly what he has wanted for so long. V1. So going into Episode 7, the stakes are no longer rising slowly. They're already at the ceiling. And in my opinion, this next episode is all about what happens when a man who already thought he was above everyone else suddenly believes he can never die. Let's start with the obvious question. What does V1 actually do to Homelander? Now, I know there are a lot of theories floating around that this could somehow backfire. Maybe it weakens him, maybe it strips his powers, maybe it punishes him in the worst way possible by forcing him to live as a normal human being. And honestly, that would be poetic. That would probably be the most emotionally brutal ending for Homelander imaginable. But based on what we have seen, I do not think that is where Episode 7 is going right now. Personally, I think the show is moving in the opposite direction first. I think V1 works. I think it gives Homelander exactly what he wanted. More power, more confidence, more certainty, and most importantly, immunity from the one thing that had finally humbled him, the possibility of death. That matters, because mortality was the last thing making Homelander hesitate, even if only slightly. It was the one thing forcing him to think in terms of survival instead of pure domination. Now that fear may be gone. And if it is gone, then Episode 7 becomes terrifying. Because a Homelander who feels immortal is not going to be subtle. He is not going to negotiate. He is not going to listen. He is going to act like the god he has always believed himself to be. That is why I think the reckoning he promised is finally about to begin. And the timing makes sense too. The 7 is basically finished. Sister Sage is gone. Deep and Noir are out of the picture. There is no real inner circle left to slow him down. No one left whispering strategy in his ear. No one left pretending to manage him. That means Homelander enters Episode 7 more powerful and more isolated at the exact same time. And honestly, that is the scariest combination possible. Now, one of the biggest clues for where this is going is the Oval Office shot. That image tells you everything about Homelander's next move. This is no longer about influence. It is no longer about controlling the presidency from the background. I think Episode 7 pushes him towards simply taking the seat for himself. Because if he now believes he is truly above consequence, then why keep hiding behind human leadership at all? In my opinion, the logic in his mind becomes very simple. If he is immortal, if he is the strongest soup alive, if he is God, then why should anyone else be president? That is why I would not be surprised at all if Episode 7 opens with Homelander eliminating anyone in his path politically and symbolically. Not because he needs to, because he wants to make a point. And if that happens, then characters like Ashley should be very worried, because Ashley has always survived by staying useful and staying small. But once Homelander enters full divine dictator mode, usefulness may not matter anymore. He could start wiping out anyone connected to systems he no longer respects. And the government, the media, the old Vought structure, all of that could suddenly become disposable. Now, let's talk about Soldier Boy, because I think he is the real wild card of Episode 7. At the end of the last episode, his choice looked like a switch. He handed Homelander what he wanted, and on the surface, it seemed like he had picked a side. But I'm not convinced that means loyalty. Soldier Boy does not really do loyalty. He does resentment, ego, and impulse. So the real question is not whether he helped Homelander. The real question is whether he now regrets it. Because if Homelander starts behaving exactly the way Soldier Boy feared, unstable, unstoppable, and impossible to control, then I could absolutely see Soldier Boy turning right back around. In fact, I think Episode 7 may start building toward that.
Not an instant full betrayal, maybe, but the beginning of the realization that giving Homelander V1 may have been the biggest mistake on the board. And there is another layer here, too. For all of Homelander's insecurity around Soldier Boy, V1 may have erased that. If Homelander now feels stronger than ever, the inferiority he once felt around his father may vanish. And once that insecurity disappears, what is left? Arrogance, old resentment, and possibly the urge to prove he no longer needs Soldier Boy at all. That is why I think there is a very real chance Homelander tries to kill or remove Soldier Boy sooner rather than later, because a god does not like standing next to someone who reminds him of where he came from. Now, shifting to Butcher, Episode 7 should be the moment where he either breaks completely or becomes more dangerous than he has ever been. Last episode left him looking lost, and that matters because Butcher almost never looks lost. Angry? Yes. Ruthless? Definitely. But defeated? That is different. Homelander getting V1 was not just a tactical loss, it was psychological. It was the nightmare scenario. So where does Butcher go from here? My personal theory is that Episode 7 becomes the regrouping hour for Butcher and the boys. Not in a quiet or hopeful way, but in a desperate one. This is the point where they stop talking about ideal outcomes and start talking about what ugly option is still left. And if the boys stays true to itself, that option will not be clean. I would also keep an eye on Starlight in this episode. Huey telling her she is not going to die still feels like a huge red flag to me. Maybe it is there to set up emotional tension. Maybe it is there to fake us out. But lines like that do not usually exist for no reason. If Episode 7 is where Homelander starts his actual reign, then Annie may end up directly in the path of it. And if Homelander now has V1 in his system, then anyone still hoping the virus is the simple answer is probably in for a brutal wake-up call. One more thing I think Episode 7 does is push the show back into full endgame mode. No more drifting, no more circling, no more pretending there is still time.
This is the penultimate episode. It has to hurt. It has to move. It has to make us feel like the finale is coming with blood on its hands. And honestly, with Homelander now acting like an immortal ruler and Butcher being forced into a corner, I think that is exactly the shape of the next episode. So my final prediction is this. Episode 7 shows Homelander immediately embracing his new god complex with zero restraint. The political side of the world begins collapsing under him. Soldier Boy starts realizing what he has unleashed. Butcher begins building one last ugly plan, and by the end of the hour, the finale is no longer about stopping a tyrant before he rises. It is about surviving the tyrant after he already has. But anyway, that is my breakdown of The Boys Season 5, Episode 7 theories, and what I think could happen next. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to like, subscribe, and let me know in the comments. Do you think V1 really worked perfectly on Homelander, or is the show still hiding one last brutal twist before the finale? I will catch you in the next one.